Hello fellow crafters, my name is Jennifer and welcome to my video for Altenew's Anything Goes video hop. Now this hop is for Altenew's educators and you should have arrived here from Sarah's video and your next stop is Aya's video. Details of the hop and the giveaway are in the description below. Now this card panel I'm going to be creating today was actually inspired by a previous challenge that I did, and for the challenge we were not allowed to use any stamps. And I didn't realize until I finished this panel that I actually didn't use any stamps. So it's really interesting how some of the things that we learn and do kind of follow us as we move forward. Now, as you can see, I'm going to be using Bird of the Mountain, my new favorite product right now. And I'm also going to be using the flower wreath foil plate, as well as the stencils that come along with that foil plate. For the sentiment, I am going to be using the Thanks die from the Sweet Sentiments die set. First, I am going to be cutting the Bird of the Mountain pieces because I am going to be ink blending and adding a lot of ink to those pieces. And I want to put those pieces aside to dry because when you add a lot of ink to your paper, it does make the paper more fragile and more prone to fraying, at least my experience anyways. Now, all of these pieces fit beautifully on an A2 card panel. I always have pre-cut A2 panels, so it's really great. I just pull that out, put my pieces on, and I don't have too much left over really from die cutting this bird. Now, the ink colors I'm going to be using to ink blend my pieces is the Navy Fresh dye ink, the Ocean Waves dye ink, and the Lagoon dye ink. And I love how these colors mix and work with each other. Combining them gives you slightly different shades, and of course, depending on how much of each color you use will again change that shade. So I'm really happy with how these shades worked with each other and the end result I got on my paper. I am going to throw on some music, but I will be popping back in a couple of other spots throughout the video. I'm going to pop back in here, and as you can see, I'm just getting my hot foil plate ready. It's a really large plate, and if I want to do the entire wreath, I do need to add an additional piece of foil to cover the whole plate. Now, I've never had any issues with results when doing that, but I am not going to do that here because I don't need that entire wreath. I just need most of it. Now, I'm going to pull out my foil press machine. I am going to use a medium heat. And I'm going to go 30 to 45 seconds. I don't pay attention too much to the exact seconds. As long as it's over 30, I'm happy, and that's really just me being lazy setting the seconds. Now my mistake here is I added a shim to my sandwich, and I shouldn't have. I literally have the correct sandwich written on the packaging, and it specifically says no shim. So I don't know what happened here, but I still have a really, really great impression. Now, my panel's a little stuck here on the end, but that's just because I've put my plate through hell. So we'll leave it at that, but it still works just fine. So moving forward, I'm going to pull out my stencils. I'm going to get this wreath colored, and then I will trim it down to an A2 card base. Now I'm going to pop back in here one more time because I am going to be die cutting the rest of the bird, so the legs, the beak, and the eye, but I'm going to be die cutting it from brushed gold, and I'm going to be going over that brushed gold with Copic markers. I learned this the hard way. You can only do about 1 or 2 passes of the Copic marker on that brushed gold before it will actually start lifting the gold, and it's likely the alcohol in the alcohol marker. I'm going to take a minute to talk about assembling the bird. You can see the little die cut arrows in the pieces, and beside these arrows are embossed numbers, so you can assemble the bird in the order in which it's supposed to be assembled. So this makes it really easy to do. Now, the tail piece only has the embossed number, and it doesn't have the arrow, but I think we're all okay with that. And one of the wonderful things about this die set is that because all of the pieces are separate, you can really get some interesting results depending on how you ink blend or the color of cardstock you use for each piece on this bird. And here is my finished panel. It's so shiny, it's so sweet, and that bird really just pops. Now, I also wanted to take a minute to show you a couple of other cards that I created using the bird as well as the wreath. So this one here was more of an experimentation with some glitter cardstock for the pieces of the bird. Like I said, you can get some really interesting results with this die set. And I made this one a gatefold. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video that the inspiration for this panel came from a challenge, and this gatefold here is actually the card I made for that challenge. So you can see there's no stamping, and again, that was the challenge itself, is to create something without using any stamps. So that's it for me. I hope that this video inspires you to create something new and unique, and I will catch you at the next project.